Sorted after the war, the race. The history books, they tell of their defeat in 45. They all came out of the woodwork on the day the Nazi died. They say the prisoner of Spandau was a symbol of defeat. Whilst Hess remained in prison, then the fascists they would beat. So the promise of an Aryan world would never materialize. So why did they all come out of the woodwork on the day the Nazi died? The world is riddled with maggots. The maggots are getting fat. They're making a tasty meal of all the bosses and bureaucrats. They're taking over the boardrooms and they're fat and full of pride. And they all came out of the woodwork on the day the Nazi died. So if you meet with these historians, I'll tell you what to say. Tell them that the Nazis never really went away. They're out there burning houses down and peddling racist lies. And we'll never rest again until every Nazi dies.
Woke up one morning and there were soldiers. Oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Woke up one morning and there were soldiers. The invasion had begun. Lend me your shoulder, we'll stand together. Oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Lend me your shoulder, we'll stand together. But I feel my time has come, and if I die here for the resistance, oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. And if I die here for the resistance, you must lay me in my grave among the flowers upon the mountain. Oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Among the flowers upon the mountain, let me rest among the brave. Someday the people will pick the flowers. Oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Someday the people will pick the flowers, and they will remember my name. This is the flower of the resistance. Oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. This is the flower of the resistance, and those who died for liberty. This is the flower of the resistance. Oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. This is the flower of the resistance, and those who died for liberty. This is the flower of the resistance, and those who died for liberty.
Come all of you good workers, good news to you I'll tell, of how the good old Union has come in here to dwell.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
My daddy was a miner and I'm a miner's son, and I'll stick with the Union till every battle's won.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
They say in Harlan County there are no neutrals there. You'll either be a Union man or a thug for J.H. Blair.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Oh, workers, can you stand it? Oh, tell me how you can. Will you be a lousy scab or will you be a man?
Which side are you on? Which side are are you on?
Don't scab for the bosses, don't listen to their lies. Us poor folks haven't got a chance unless we organize.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
I was born in the Dublin street where the lion runs do beat, and the lovely English people walked all over us. And every single night when they tell, come home tight, he'd invite the neighbours out with his chorus. Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Show your wife how you won medals down in Flanders. Tell her how the IRA made you run like Galloway from the green and lovely lace of Gilshandra. Come tell us how you slew them old Arabs 2 by 2. Like the Zulus say had nice bows and arrows. Of how bravely you faced one with your 16-pounder gun. And you frightened all the natives to the marrow. Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Show your wife how you won medals down in Flanders. Tell her how the IRA made you run like Galloway from the green and lovely lake.
Hello! How are we all? I'm very well, I thank you for asking. How you getting on? You well? I do hope so. What have you been up to today, chat? Anything fun, special, interesting, or just boring shit? I've tried to elevate the quality of my content by just quoting Shakespeare in the title of things now. That's just what I do now. You co-stream it? No, I'm on my own today. I'm on my own today. God tier intro. True. Anyway. Chat. We need to talk. We need to talk, okay? Some serious things have been going down in the Discord that need to be discussed, okay? Oh, for fuck's sake. Literally kill me. In Minecraft. Boom. Okay. This is unacceptable, okay? This is entirely unacceptable. How do I even do it? How can I zoom in on? Can I zoom in on that? Yeah, there we go. Okay. It's a little bit blurry, but there you go. There's me, the fat Aussie guy from the fucking thing from the cricket the other day, the most Australian anyone has ever Australianly, and Jeremy fucking Beadle.
You just assaulted me.
You're cancelled. Whoever did this, you're cancelled. Okay? You're going to get gulagged and trebucheted. Fucking outrageous. And then I go to post a link to the stream today. You know, as I do. Being the kind of person who regularly updates chat about stuff. Honest. And then I get this fucking activity. Where I'm made to look like the fattest pharaoh that ever lived. Ozymandias. I see what you've done there, Phantom of Black, thank you. Look at it. Absolute fucking mess. And then, just to top it off, the largest ape ever. It's apparently now extinct, but I mean, to be fair, it is a very similar body type to me. Not as hairy, though. But, you know. So, you know, this needs to stop. Okay? I'm cancelling all of you. I will ban every single person in chat. If this kind of activity doesn't cease forthwith. Okay? If you want to help out a fat ape, you can do so in the following ways. You can hit the follow button. You can subscribe. You can subscribe with Amazon Prime. You can give subs to the community. You can do bits messages. 200 bits or more gets you a text-to-speech. You can do super chats by the Streamlabs link below. $2 or more there gets you a text-to-speech. You can do... what else can you do? You can help me out on Patreon and PayPal. I've got Discord, YouTube, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok and Threads. If you're on YouTube, hello YouTube. You can subscribe to the channel. You can hit the bell icon to get notifications of when I finger my arsehole. You can thumb the video up. You can do. You can become a member for 99p. You can gift memberships at exactly that same rate, which is like $1.10 or 20 or something. I don't know in American money. You can do super chats and stuff. Yeah. There was a new thing on Twitch as well that they're trying, and I'm not sure what the fuck it even is. Combos or something? I don't know. Yeah. That's all I got to say to that. Anyway. There are lots of very serious things in the world. Lots of things that make one angry and annoyed and upset. I'm still dealing with the loss of a friend. The destruction of the area in which I grew up, the general fuckery of both the Labour Council and Labour government here, Donald Trump existing, poverty, degradation, genocide, so on and so forth. And we could look at all of that. But what I need is a distraction. I need a distraction of an idiot talking shit. Boom, Liz Truss swoops in to save us yet again. Fresh off of murdering the Queen, she now saves us by introducing the Liz Truss Show, which I am still very proud of the fact that I have more than double the number of subscribers. I've got more, double the subscribers of a former Prime Minister. Tells you how fucking relevant she is, I think. Anyway. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to get through with this because it could be genuinely painful. She's mental. She's basically now gone from being the Prime Minister to being a backbencher to now just not even being in Parliament and just going around the world talking shit about Britain to like right-wing audiences. Fun.
I have just accepted Her Majesty the Queen's kind invitation to form a new government.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's fantastic to be back.
The music is a choice, isn't it? The music is a choice. Have you ever seen a more not metal person than Liz fucking Truss? I don't know what would be a fitting musical accompaniment. Maybe.
In this new era, we're taking a new approach. It will be uncensorable and uncancelable. We can't give in to those who say we can't do better.
That is a disgrace.
We can make the West
Pork
great
markets.
again.
I think I'm going to get a lot of use of this one.
Right-wing bollocks.
Yeah, I think that's... Honestly, I think that button might get worn out tonight.
The status quo is not an option.
Welcome to the first ever edition of the Liz Truss.
The Floral Dance by Terry Wogan. Oh my god. What a reference. Okay, we're gonna have to. It's probably copyright, isn't it? Nah, fuck it. It's old enough. I don't give a shit. Oh God. This was did this get to number 1? I think, or certainly it charted. The 70s were a fucking time, man.
I thought I could hear the curious tone of the cornet, clarinet and big trombone, fiddle, cello, big bass drum, bassoon, flute and euphonium. Far away as in a trance, I heard the sound of the floral dance. As I walked home on a summer night, when stars in heaven were shining bright.
Unbelievable. Britain is a special place. Britain is a fucking special place.
Where are we going? Garbage Island.
Our show. You'd have to be watching the fake news BBC or living on Elon Musk's Mars mission to not know that Britain is going to hell in a handcart. Despite the valiant efforts of a certain Prime Minister to get things on the right track in 2022, this country seems to have a death wish.
Hang on, is she bigging up herself? The person that tried to get us on the right track and was kicked out within the shortest period ever. What the fuck? Are you really bigging up your very brief time in office? That's pathetic. Kev, why won't it let me turn the stream quality down? I don't know. Genuinely, I don't know.
Our economy is in meltdown. Industrial towns are in a worse state than ever before. The last vestiges of a once proud British industry, steel towns, mill towns, car towns, are being killed off by eco-zealots.
No, Toryism killed those things off. They're already dead. Interesting you didn't mention mining towns there as well. I wonder why.
Small businesses are dying. Big businesses are leaving. We're now poorer than Mississippi. It's like...
You were in government for 14 years! What the fuck? You're a lunatic, yo. I swear to God.
Huckleberry Finn without the steamboats. People are having to pull their own teeth out because they can't get a dentist.
You were in government.
We've been importing Islamists who want to destroy our country from imposing Sharia law.
Fuck yes. We've been importing Islamists.
Law to orchestrating terror attacks. Gangs of Pakistani heritage criminals have carried out unspeakable sex crimes against young girls for decades.
So have Tory ministers. Anyone want to mention that? No? Okay.
These crimes have been covered up by the authorities.
Same,
we even have Islamist MPs in the House of Commons backing cousin marriage and all kinds of barbaric practices. No one can be deported, thanks to the web...
No one. No one.
...of human rights law and the subversion of our justice system. People are in despair. But they're not even allowed to talk about it. If you speak out against the Islamists or the transgender ideologues, you can be arrested.
Wow, she is a scattergun of right-wing shite. Holy fuck. The Islamists or the transgender ideologues. What kind of creature is this, man?
Anytime, any place, anywhere. Heathrow Airport, your house, the office. The nation that invented free speech, and it was in 1694.
Invented free speech. Fucking Christ almighty, you're your own ass.
That the free press was established, is now the home of state censorship.
The home.
This calamity, the fall of Britain, the fall of England, the fall of London, is being presided over by a governing elite who hate our country.
Based.
It's not just the dismal Labour Party and the charisma-free zone that is Keir Starmer. It's the Conservatives in name only, who wanted to be the heirs to Blair. It's the Communist Greens, Zach Pal-
Fuck yes. Let's go.
Polanski, who is the British answer to New York Mayor Mandami, with
Every time she says it. Every time she mentions one of our great Islamo-communoids.
without the American teeth. It's the bureaucrats who've been captured by the left and the judiciary who are a self-perpetuating oligarchy. This deep state has amassed more and more power. In the famous sitcom Yes Minister, it used to be the case that civil servant Sir Humphrey was occasionally got the better of by Prime Minister Jim Hackett. In modern Yes Minister, the bureaucrats hold all the...
Well, you bollocks that up, because in Yes Minister, he was just a minister. You're talking about Yes Prime Minister. When he became Prime Minister, you've literally fucked up your own cultural reference, you daft bastard.
cards. And Sir Humphrey is now a radicalised trans activist.
Are you sure about that?
She is amazing. God, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And are we even a minute in yet? Oh, we are. We're 3 minutes in. Okay. Oh, okay.
It's the BBC and the mainstream media and their captured regulator Ofcom. When the BBC are not busy lying about Donald Trump, they're covering up for sex criminals in their own midst.
Isn't that literally a description of the Conservative Party? I think so.
I think the best news that we've had in the last month is that President Trump is suing them for all their worth. I'd rather my license fee money went to Trump media than Trotskyite media.
What the fuck are you talking about? Trotskyite media, you fucking clown. They just live in a different world, don't they, Conservatives? They've invented their own culture war universe. Where the BBC is run by transgender communists, apparently. Somehow. Fucking joke.
All these people in the bureaucracy, the BBC, the bourgeoisie, live in enclaves.
The bourgeoisie. You're just using words now. You don't know what any of these things mean, do you? The bourgeoisie. This is diabolical.
In London and the home counties, where they can blank out the truth about what's happening in their Gales bakeries and their gated residences, and look at spreadsheets telling them everything will get better. This show is going to lift the lid on what is going on. We're going to tell you exactly how bad it is. We will be hearing first-hand accounts and witnesses
Right-wing bollocks.
to the fall of Britain. We're also going to tell you about how these evildoers are working to do the same thing in America and Europe. We will identify the tactics and the game plan of the enemy. Secondly, we'll talk about who is responsible. Who is behind the deep state? Who are their allies in politics and the media? And how does the international network of leftists work?
I know. Is it George Soros? Is it the Rothschilds? Do you want to JQ any harder, you crazy bitch?
To subvert democracy and the will of the people. But this show is not just doom and gloom. We want to save Britain and Europe and the West, and we will bring optimism and hope. So we're going to talk about what needs to be done. We're going to look at the Trump revolution and see how this can be achieved in Britain.
Literally the only person in Britain who wants that to happen.
We'll be talking to the leading lights of the MAGA movement. We'll be
So this is just for an American audience, cool.
dissecting Project 2025. Ladies and gentlemen,
The thing we were told totally doesn't exist.
Welcome to the home of the counter-revolution. Welcome to the Liz Truss Show. It's great to be joined by Matt Goodwin, who is
a lying wanker from GB News. Fucking Christ almighty. Okay. Brilliant. Yeah, awesome. Can't wait.
Britain's #1 Substack, as well as being an academic who's a specialist in these subjects.
Yeah, definitely academic, yeah.
Matt, what is the problem in Britain today and exactly how bad is it?
Well, I think there are lots of people who would say the problem is mass immigration, the problem is broken borders, the problem is an economy that isn't growing. But the thing that stands behind all of that, I would argue, is the ruling class, is what I would call the new elite.
You are on GB News and you are talking to a former Prime Minister, but you're not the elite, somehow.
Regime that basically dominates almost all of the institutions in the country. We know, for example, from rigorous polling that 75% of all people in those institutions lean to the left.
Yeah, it's called having a brain, yeah.
But fundamentally, it's a ruling class that is very different from what we might call the old elite in Britain. Now, that old elite, basically running until about the 1960s, was very disconnected from ordinary people, but believed in the nation. That old elite saw itself as custodians of the nation, believed in the continuity of Britain. This new elite from the 1960s onwards is very different. It basically is dominated by what I would call suicidal empathy, an outlook that is all about extending compassion.
Oh yeah, we've been too compassionate since the 1980s, yeah, of course.
Extending tolerance, extending a belief in diversity at the expense of its own people, at the expense of the country. So what we have now are politicians who would say porous borders is fine. So
who the fuck are these politicians who say porous borders are fine?
Long as we are showing empathy to other people. Mass uncontrolled immigration is fine, no matter its
uncontrolled, never happened.
Effect on the economy, so long as we are showing tolerance to other people. It's a very morally righteous framework, and it's one that is ultimately, I think, destroying our country.
But we see the same thing in the US, don't we? We saw that with the way the Democrats are going, people like Mandami, but back to Barack Obama, you know, this same approach, this idea that the human rights of everybody is just important as the human rights of people in their own country. This self-loathing, actually, just really not liking the idea of Britain. I think this is behind a lot of the EU love, is that people just don't want to be...
You two spend all your time talking about how shit Britain is. What are you talking about? But it's other people who don't like the country.
Associated with the entity that's Britain. I mean, there's been a ludicrous debate this week about the British flag not even being allowed in Brighton because it's somehow racist to have the flag of your own country.
No, I don't know anyone who's ever said that. What the fuck are you talking about?
Always remember Sir Roger Scruton talking about the culture of repudiation, that basically what defines the elite class today.
Roger Scruton the Nazi, yeah, cool.
It's not just that they're self-critical, because that would be healthy in a society. We should all be, our own constructive critics. But what Roger pointed out was that politicians, I think especially since the 90s, are now openly repudiating and rejecting their own nations, their own identity, their own history, partly because they see that as a way of winning more social status for themselves from other members of the global elite.
See,
This is just Nazi shit. This is just straight up fascist nonsense.
You know, I was a MP for 14 years and government minister for 10 years, so I was...
How long were you Prime Minister for? Shorter than that pause.
In that system, and the whole time, I went into politics because I'm a patriot, because I want this country to be great. Lots of other people that I went into politics with felt the same thing. We didn't want open borders. We didn't want to end up with the highest taxes for 70 years.
So why did you then? Because it was your government that did this. It was the Tories that made these things happen. So what? Well, you didn't want to, but you had to?
We didn't want the state spending 45% of GDP. We didn't want to see, young girls in towns across the UK raped by Pakistani, gangs.
No, you just wanted it to be done by white men. Yeah, we know. That is... yeah, you know what? Yeah.
See, we didn't want any of that stuff. So I think the culture is much bigger than politics. It's also the bureaucracy, which under Tony Blair became weaponized.
Yeah.
And far less easy for politicians to actually push in the right direction. But also just wider British society, the corporate elite, the media.
Yeah.
You've got a whole bunch of people. So as somebody who is right wing.
Really? Are you?
You're a minority in that system.
The right wing literally own all of the media. What the fuck are you talking about?
Well, I think the way I would look at it, and I agree with much of what you said, the way I look at it is basically from 97.
This is just two stupid bitches going, yeah, I know.
And onwards, we had a Blairite revolution that was essentially about opening borders, transferring power to distant elites, downplaying the people or severing the link to the people, and politicizing public taxpayer-funded institutions.
Severing the link to people? Literally, Thatcher said there was no such thing as society. But apparently it's Tony Blair that did that. Okay.
Institutions. Now, the Conservatives, not all Conservatives, but a lot of Conservatives post-2010, either mainstreamed that revolution or they failed to reverse
Well, they
it,
said they wanted
right?
to be the heir to Blair.
So-
that was literally what
You were in those governments. What the fuck?
the so-called modernisers in the Conservative Party said. People like David Cameron, Michael Gove, George Osborne.
You were in those governments, Liz.
Well,
They
even
wanted
called
to
them-
hug Huskies and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Well, they even called themselves progressive conservatives, which is
Stop
an
it.
oxymoron.
And you saw
Get
the
some
same
help.
thing in America, didn't you, with George Bush and compassionate conservatism?
Yeah.
Which is kind of, the minute you put a word in front of conservative, you're kind of diluting it. You're saying,
Yeah, this is the only image you ever need to see for Liz Truss. It really is.
I'm a bit embarrassed to be a conservative, so I'm going to be a progressive
Yeah, you should be embarrassed. It is embarrassing. Yeah. Thank you, Boy Meets Minnie, for resubscribing for 33 months. Everyone going full of Boy Meets Minnie.
conservative or a compassionate conservative. I don't really want the real thing. I want the Diet Coke, not the full fat Coke.
Was it Lord Glasman who said that the only time I ever heard progressive was from a doctor, and it's not what you want to hear, And I think if you look at what happened to conservatism, is it fundamentally lost its way, which, as we know in British politics, we began to see what I think was a precursor to Trump in America. Remember, it really was in the early 2000s, you began to see the UK Independence Party taking off. You then had the vote for Brexit, which of course came 6 months before Donald Trump's first election victory. And so you start to see the reconfiguration of the conservative right around something that is closer to where the average voter is. Because in my mind, basically what's happened is the ruling class, the new elite, the regime, they've moved sharply to the cultural left over the last 20
What the fuck are you talking about?
years. But the average person, if anything, has gone to the right on all these big cultural issues like immigration.
Well, that's definitely true. You were saying, though, that the new elite sort of started emerging in the 60s and 70s, but we still had a Thatcher government in the 80s. The issue
with a lot
is,
of opposition
but
too.
the issue is that society at the time was changing, and the left stopped fighting the battle at the ballot box. Instead, they started trying to take over media outlets, take over universities in particular, take over these kind of NGOs. You know, Stonewall, for example, has been very powerful at pushing the transgender agenda. You know, all of
Transgender agenda. Let's go.
these organisations, they were getting their battle ready earlier than the 90s.
Well, it was in the 1980s Daniel Bell, who wrote Contradictions of Capitalism, first pointed out that Western nations were now seeing the rise of a ruling class that both hated its own country but yet enjoyed the benefits that that country had produced. So there was a double standard at work in the ruling class. They said, well, we'll use all of this freedom, you know, what we now
literally doing the Boers comic. You criticise society, you engage in society. I am very smart.
refer to as a luxury belief class, will use all of these freedoms in order to push narratives and ideologies that undermine our own nation states from within. And unfortunately, a lot of conservatives, certainly not Thatcher, of course, who famously said, "I'm sick of tolerating people who do not tolerate us." A lot of wet conservatives, liberal centrist conservatives, people who should essentially be in liberal parties, they sort of went along with that.
Yeah, Thatcher loved the UK so much she sold all of it. Yeah.
Prevailing culture. Now, what's clear to me today from Trump, Brexit, the direction of British politics, is you now have generations of conservatives who is basically saying, look, I'm not going to go along with this anymore. I want proper conservatism that actually repairs and restores the nation state.
You've now got...
But you were just praying in aid Thatcher, who destroyed the nation state. What are you talking about?
Voters who want change.
This is so all over the place. It's conservatism, I suppose.
A Trump-style revolution. They're not the ones with the power, because they're doing things like running small businesses. They tend to be living outside London. They're not part of the media class. They're not.
Oh yeah, and it turns out that UKIP was just basically a front for the Russian government, it would appear. Yet more of Farage's former MEPs alleged to have followed Russian assets script. At least 8 members of the European Parliament elected for UKIP or the Brexit Party, now known to have been the focus of efforts by jailed Nathan Gill. Well, I'm glad that Nigel Farage isn't going to become Prime Minister anytime soon, because that would be dangerous, wouldn't it?
Commentators on, you know, with the exception of you, but they're not commentating. Do you see what I mean? So there's a massive power imbalance, and that's what we've got. We've got a public who are very dissatisfied with the system. You know, Keir Starmer's polling at 15%.
Yeah.
He's the most unpopular Prime Minister in history. Yeah. But yet...
Outlasted you though, didn't I? I'll give him that much. He outlasted you.
You don't really feel the sense of that if you're around in London or you're reading the mainstream media, because the people who are angry are not the people with the power.
So I think if you look at British politics,
Permaban. Absolute permaban. Who did this? Show yourself. Fucking show yourself! Banned. Cancelled, banned, unsubscribed. Disgusting.
Politics today, the two parties that have dominated this country for more than a century are now combined on only 30 to 35% of the national vote. What that tells me is that the traditional centres of power in this country are collapsing. Now, they haven't realised that yet, but it is very visible, not just in the polling, but in real-world elections that are actually taking place. So what we're seeing, and indeed one irony of British politics, particularly after Brexit, is that we have actually become a little bit more European, in the sense that our voters are saying, well, we're not going to go on with these two blocks that have failed our country. We're going to force through radical change. And we can see that in the polling, we can see it in the rise of reform. You also, by the way, see it in the rise of the Greens. So that British politics is basically becoming more polarised. Now, I believe the right will win that battle for lots of reasons we can get into. I think they're winning the arguments. I think geographically the right is in a stronger place in our two-party system and a lot of other things.
Well, how would that work if every single institution has been taken over by the left? It's almost like your narrative is complete nonsense.
A lot of other reasons. But what is clear is we are living through a watershed moment where the 20th century and the politics that govern the 20th century are now rapidly making way for something entirely different.
I mean, I welcome that because I think this country needs the most massive shake-up. My big fear, having spent 10 years doing battle with the civil service, ultimately as Prime Minister...
How many of those 10 years were you Prime Minister for? 0.
Being sabotaged by the Bank of England, the rest of the deep state, is I know how powerful these left-wing institutions are in Britain.
The Bank of England is a left-wing institution.
Right-wing bollocks.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I did see this. Yeah, Tony Blair's been dropped from the Gaza peace plan thing. Which, you know, who could have seen that various Arab and Muslim states would reject him as part of the solution to the problem? Cray cray.
More powerful in the US. Currently, the Prime Minister is not able to appoint the senior civil servants. They're not able to appoint the Governor of the Bank of England, apart from once every 8 years. Do you think there is just going to be a huge problem in actually trying to change the way Britain is run? Because this isn't just a political problem, this is a massive system problem. The country's falling apart in every possible way, whether it's our infrastructure, you know, whether you can...
Which you did nothing to try and improve, yes, okay.
You can get a dentist, you know...
Which is also your fault.
Well,
the economy, you know, whether or not you can open a business, all of this stuff doesn't work. Yeah. And most of the people controlling the levers of power are not on your side.
Unless you actually go to war with that political class, we will never ever solve the second order problems that really alienate millions of people, from mass migration to the tax regime. So what does that mean? Well, if you compare and contrast America and Britain, one of the advantages President Trump has, you know, is he can make thousands of appointments within the political system. He can wield enormous amounts of power through executive orders and what.
So you actually don't want democracy, you want a dictator? Okay.
Lots of other things. A Prime Minister here is, as you know, is much more limited in terms of the number of appointments and the room for manoeuvre. So whatever radical shake-up government goes in, one of the first things they have to do is basically start breaking apart, reconfiguring the state, saying, for example, well, we are going to bring forward legislation that will allow...
Also, it wasn't that long ago they were going on about how the left needs to tone down the rhetoric because they got Charlie Kirk murderized. Whereas now it's, we need to go to war with, like, bureaucrats. Cool. Yeah, very nice.
The Prime Minister and the government of the day to make a much wider number of appointments. We are going to dramatically shrink the civil service. In my mind, at a philosophical level, it is the people who are going to save this country. It has always been the British and the English people who save this country. It's never been the elite. So what we need to do is harness that popular sovereignty and apply it. Now, that happened in 2019. People will remember, you know, when it looked like the elite class was really going to ruin Brexit, was really going to overturn it, and in many ways they did dilute key aspects of Brexit.
What the fuck? It was the hardest Brexit imaginable. What are you talking about? Oh, see, it's never ever good enough for them. There's no point trying to negotiate with them because they want everything. Fucking cunts.
But fundamentally, it was the people who basically said, look, we're not going to have this. And they handed Boris Johnson at that time an enormous majority to get...
No. Nigel Farage handed him a majority by standing down.
Brexit done. Now, we can go into the betrayals that followed on immigration and everything else, but it was the people reasserting their power against an elite class. We will now see that again.
By electing an old Etonian Oxbridge graduate. Yeah. Definitely against definitely the ordinary people against the corrupt elite. Yeah, 100%, 100%. This is just rubbish.
I'm confident of it. People will say, we've had enough of this settlement. We're going to actually save our country. Who harnesses that energy and how they apply it, I think is $1 million question. Like, what would I want to see? What's my political fantasy, my dream wish list? You know, a day one new prime minister going in and saying, well, here's a letter to the Council of Europe. You know, we're leaving the European Convention on Human Rights. This is fundamentally what needs to happen.
What a surprise.
Here's a plan for dealing with the Lords. Like, whether you pack it with new peers, whether you fundamentally reform it, it is shock and awe for the first, 3 or 4 weeks, because that is basically the only window you're going to have. But yet I'm so optimistic about the future. Why am I optimistic?
Because they're doing so badly?
Because they're doing so badly, but you can sense actually that the opportunity for radical change in this country is now so immense because the two parties are breaking down. This status quo has been completely discredited.
I think people are understanding that we have a system problem, that it isn't just the politicians, that the police chiefs are failing. Yeah. If you look at the chief constable of the West Midlands Police, he's basically been appeasing Islamists. Or you
what the fuck are you talking about? So you can't on the one hand be like, we're letting in too many dangerous foreigners, but the West Midlands Police didn't want to let in loads of dangerous foreigners. Amazing. These people are just fucking sociopathic lunatics.
Look at the judiciary and the decisions they're making in cases, or you look at the bureaucrats that are hauled in front of the select committees, or the bias at the BBC. This is not a problem that's restricted to the House of Commons. This is a big problem.
And I would also even go further than that in saying that I think millions of people can sense we are now actually at a civilizational moment in this country, which is, what does it mean to be from Britain in a country where by 2063, according to ONS data, the white British majority will be a minority.
So literally great replacement theory. Cool. Not at all fascist.
And by 2075, the foreign-born in this country, people born in another part of the world, will be a majority in this country. Now, people out there might say, well, Matt, why do we care about that? My answer to that is, in the course of one lifetime, a child born today, between today and that child entering retirement, they will see the complete demographic transformation of this country in a way that people today cannot even really.
Okay, but why should we care about that? That's just you going on to explain the thing again. That's not you explaining why anyone should give a fuck about that. Does anyone else think Tony Blair's weird old man mullet kind of makes him look like the first Doctor? I think it makes him look like Vigo the Carpathian from the from the Ghostbusters movie. But that's just me.
Begin to make sense of, and I don't think.
How would you reverse that?
Well, the reason I raise it is because people can now sense that what has happened over the last 30 years through the Blairite revolution, and particularly under Boris Johnson, that they can now sense that this country has been pushed onto a course that is both profound and which they never voted for. How would you fix it? You would immediately end the policy of mass uncontrolled immigration.
No one's ever done uncontrolled immigration. This is absurd.
You would immediately do what Donald Trump is doing, President Trump in America, detain and deport an estimated 1.3 million illegal migrants in the country. You would have...
Wow, so just doing weird ICE fascism. Cool.
A serious national conversation about how do we boost family? How do we increase birth rates?
I'm sorry, but the phrase national conversation does sound very New Labour to me, Matt.
Okay.
It is the kind of thing that they come up to you rather than saying what they actually think. They say, let's have a conversation.
Let me put it differently. I want to see a...
She is a genuinely very stupid human being, isn't she? Like, it's not just that she's evil, which of course she is. She's actually thick as pig shit. National conversation. Apparently that's woke now. What?
Prime Minister standing outside number 10 Downing Street, saying to the country, if we don't have families who have a larger number of children, this country will not survive.
Well, it's great to be able to welcome Peter McCormack,
So he was just a fascist? Okay, who's this weirdo? I don't know who he is.
famous podcaster and Bitcoin expert and friend.
Bitcoin expert. Okay. Cool.
Peter, just tell us about what you think the state of Britain is now.
Yes, I think our country is rusting. I think there's a decay in our country. But the thing that really stands out to me, I feel, I don't know if you feel this, Liz, but I feel like there's two groups of people in our country living in parallel universes. I look at the state of the economy, the state of our high streets, the state of our education, and all I see is decay. And there's a separate group of people who think everything's fine. Like the house is on fire, and like the memes saying everything's fine. And
He is wearing the Charlie Kirk t-shirt. Because again, this is for an American audience. This is just American, like, rage bait, I guess.
One confuses me a lot because I think the decay is so obvious. You just look at the economic figures. You just look at the things like the graffiti on the underground. You look at the shoplifting that's become normalised everywhere, and you're thinking, but this isn't what I grew up with. And so I'm worried about.
Yes, it is. What are you talking about? Graffiti on the underground has been around for fucking ages. Shoplifting has been around for ages. This isn't what I grew up with. No, you lived a closeted middle-class upbringing, I'm sure. So you never saw those things when they were young, but they were fucking there.
That decay, and most of all within that, I'm really worried about the young people of our country, most of all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, but if you're saying that some people don't get it, and I know these people because I used to work for them.
Right.
And with them. You know, I was an MP for 14 years, I was a government minister for 10 years. And...
Okay, is the robot malfunctioning? Because it's just repeating the same things over and over again. I was a government minister for blah, blah, blah. I was an MP for blah, 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 blah.
Westminster and Whitehall is...
Oh, she's literally got a MAGA hat on the wall as well. Oh, no.
Finally, those capitalist
No, that's not what I
pay
meant.
for their crimes, eh? Hey, comrades, hey!
I meant to play this one.
Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen.
So insulated. You know, if you're one of the 4 million people that work for the government, you know, you've had pay rises, you've got a great pension.
No! You were given a pay rise and you've got a pension you can afford to live on? Oh, that's crazy. We should definitely force those people into poverty.
You might live in a wealthy area of London or the home counties. You're not actually seeing what's going on in
Where do you live, Liz?
Bedford, or you're not seeing what's going on in Bradford. You know, you are insulated from it, and there's so much fake news, isn't there? You know, if you watch the BBC,
It's so funny, having just interviewed a GBB's fucking creep, that she's now like, there's so much fake news. Okay, babe.
you'd have no idea that Britain was going to hell in a handcart. You'd think that the main problem was there were too many people on the far right, and that was what was
Yeah, that there are too many.
facing our country, or that Donald Trump is ruining it, you know, with various faked up videos of him. So,
but
I think it's quite obvious who the people are that are insulated. You know, they work in the public sector, or they work in jobs that are dependent on the public sector. So if you're in the green energy industry, or if you're working in banking, you know, your job is heavily...
Yeah, everyone in banking is left wing. Brilliant. This, I don't know how much more I can fucking stand of this.
regulated. It's pretty much protected.
Who is there's one more guest. Who does she have on? Hang on.
And that is what is making this country no longer a home of freedom, because it isn't. It's an embarrassment.
We used to be an inspiration for the world. How many people look at the UK and think, that's what we need to be doing now?
Are you sure about that?
There's a single country in the world where people go, we need to be more like the UK.
I'm joined today by Alex Phillips, former politician and broadcaster who's done a lot of work on the problems that we have with migration in Britain. Alex, how bad is it?
I mean, it's shocking. If you look at the official statistics for legal migration, we know that with government policy, we're getting up to about a net people 1 million every single year.
And that's bearing in mind that some of the best people are leaving Britain.
Exactly, right. So actually, if you look at the gross statistics, it's easily over 1 million. And a lot of these people don't tend to be skilled workers from Western cultures. Then, of course, we...
Oh, Western cultures. Nice little dog whistle there. Brown people. She means brown people.
We have the statistics on illegal migration, which will be the tip of the iceberg, because largely we're looking at people coming over on small boats, those people who are detected as coming over on small boats. We're not looking at people who are overstaying student visas, who are coming in via aeroplanes, who are then losing their passports, people who are coming in on the backs of lorries. And so what we essentially have is this unprecedented inundation of our islands from cultures which frankly really struggle to assimilate with our own.
The melt.
And we've heard of some really barbaric cases, and I feel like I read the news every day and it's another 12-year-old or a
Shut the fuck up, you can't read. We know you can't read, don't lie.
13-year-old who's been or attacked, and yet all of these people seem to have been let into the country. What is going on?
And these are the stories we're hearing. We're not hearing of all the stories that go unreported, the stories that don't actually even get reported to the police. We tend to only get something in the news cycle if there has been a charge, and we know how vanishingly small that is as a percentage of all sexual assault cases. If you look at the statistics in Bournemouth, reported in Bournemouth.
I'm bored of this. Can we just move on to the other thing I wanted to watch? The Fall of Ben Shapiro. Why is that a different shape of screen? There we go. Okay.
Things haven't been going great for Ben Shapiro. The former darling of right-wing media has been under a lot of fire from his right flank, and his once enviable position now seems very precarious. Only 8 years ago, things were dramatically different as Ben Shapiro was making his ascent. Back on November 13th, 2017, an article in the New York Times described conservative commentator Ben Shapiro as the cool kids philosopher.
Which is still funny to call him that now.
The article is a relatively gentle profile of Shapiro, describing him as a conservative firebrand who holds extreme views, who is finding a young audience online. There's a part of this article that has an odd echo in the present. It reads, Mr. Shapiro is trying to define conservatism at a time when its meaning is up for grabs, and the Republican Party and traditional conservative media outlets like Fox are built for older audiences. This is even truer now, but the next sentence in the article is even more interesting. Shapiro does not like President Trump, and he disagrees with his old boss at Breitbart News, Stephen K. Bannon, that Trumpism is the future of the Republican Party. Obviously, Ben Shapiro has changed his tune long since then,
because he realised financially it wasn't viable.
And that's part of how Shapiro has succeeded, a combination of being morally lucky within the context of conservative politics and willing to sit at the altar of Trump, cashing in on the rightward shift represented by Trump and knowing when to fall in line when he saw where that push towards the right was actually coming from. Not people like him, but the constituency more aligned with Donald Trump. This nimble movement helped him ascend the space to be one of the most popular voices in online conservative media in the early 2020s. But his metrics have been way down in 2025. In fact, I suspect further down than the publicly available data suggests. The reasons are many, and ironically, much of it is Shapiro's own making. I want to look through some of that history and explore just how someone can go from being one of the big dogs in the conservative movement to one of its favorite whipping boys. For those somehow unfamiliar with Shapiro's backstory, the very fast version was that he was a young conservative who got a taste of the limelight in conservative commentary before the age of 20. He tried to break into the world of Hollywood and failed.
I've written a couple comedies, kind of hour-long dramedies for, spec script.
Lol.
And have they been bought?
No.
He helped launch the Daily Wire, a conservative media.
Loser.
a company that had massive success in its earlier years, although its fortunes have turned as of late. I made a whole video about that if you're curious to learn more. As the Daily Wire weakens as a company, largely as a result of bad business decisions costing them tens of millions of dollars and losing key talent, driving down viewership, being so closely tied to that company has damaged Shapiro's reputation as well. Even though he isn't the CEO who has been driving some of those bad decisions, this company is still very much associated with him as a talent. Where Shapiro stands on a lot of issues hasn't changed.
Oh, wow, okay, hang on. Ooh. Oh, this was from a couple of days ago. I haven't heard about this. A gunman opens fire at home of right-wing podcaster Tim Pool. Right-wing commentator and podcaster. Oh, podcast. Tim Pool claimed his house. He claimed his house was shot at by an unknown gunman with an approach in a vehicle. The alleged incident came... okay, I don't believe it then. Sorry. Nope. No. Show me a police report. Show me something scrawled in shit on a napkin, and I would believe it over something Tim Pool said. I don't care. I don't trust that that's an actual thing that happened.
Much over the years. Going back to that 2017 New York Times article again, his positions are described like this. His views are extremely conservative. Transgenderism is a mental illness, as per the Encyclopedia of Mental Disorders before 2013. Yes, blacks
and germs don't exist, according to the Encyclopedia of Diseases, 1850.
Have been historically discriminated against. No, institutions are not broadly discriminated against them today. The rich pay too much tax. Abortion should be illegal. Social Security ought to be privatized and Obamacare repealed. This is something I just
right-wing bollocks.
want to mention off the top that while Shapiro is currently losing ground to people more extremely right-wing than he is, back in 2017 he was already considered pretty far right too. That should tell you a lot about the state of modern conservatism right now, at least in the media space. One key issue is that Shapiro has been a steadfast supporter of Israel, making him vulnerable to criticism as he continues to run cover for the obvious genocide happening in Gaza, a sentiment that became more popular in mainstream media throughout 2025. In addition to that, there are several prominent right-wing creators, specifically Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens, who very much hold a grudge against Ben Shapiro.
And are anti-Semitic cunts.
As Shapiro's view numbers sharply dropped through 2025, he was motivated to respond to the growing alternative in conservative media, one that was growing increasingly hostile towards him. A video from October 30th titled "Woke Politics Infected the Far Right" is his attempt to explain just what's going on.
You do have one party, the Democratic Party, that has increasingly made it clear that there is a population they do not like, and that population that they apparently do not like is white Christian males. That is the
Fair enough, yeah.
population that must be targeted.
To evidence this claim that the Democrats are targeting white Christian males, he mentions the candidacy of Zohran Mamdani, who was recently elected mayor. Of New York City. Mamdani received, at best, tepid support for his candidacy from the Democratic Party, even after winning the party's nomination.
What is it, though, that has held you back? I mean, usually this is somebody that won a Democratic primary. You know, it usually wouldn't be that much of a question whether or not, you know, a congressman from the city of New York, the Democratic leader, would endorse him. What's given you pause?
Well, we've had very good conversations over the last...
Look, it couldn't be more obvious that the Democratic Party didn't want Zohran Mamdani. And Zohran Mamdani is one candidate in the entire country. Come on now. But that's anti-white to have one brown guy ever.
A few months.
He even had supposed fellow Democratic politician Andrew Cuomo run against him in the general election. Whatever problem Shapiro has with Mamdani, it's incredibly dishonest to present him as a representative of the Democratic Party as a whole, or even someone warmly embraced by the party. It's one of the ironies of Shapiro, though, trying to present the left as being taken over by the extremists, when he has folks even further right than him entrenching themselves on the right. Shapiro's other example of the left targeting of white Christian males is even sillier.
You're people of faith,
You go to church on Sunday and pray in church on Sunday and pray on people the rest of the week? What is this? What is this?
Right, the kind of scorn that Nancy Pelosi has for religious people, religious conservatives, who go to church on Sunday and disagree with her on politics. Well, that has led to a massive backlash.
I don't even know how to respond to this. I'm not even convinced that Pelosi is putting on an accent here, but it does remind me of how Candace Owens will string together nonsense anecdotes like these, attach them to a narrative, and pretend like it's a settled story. Again, another irony considering Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro are very much at odds when their methods are quite similar. He gets sillier later on when he talks about how speaking Spanish is completely fine, but apparently when Mamdani does it, it has an undertone.
If you want to appeal to an audience, speaking to them in their home language is a smart thing to do. But the entire undertone of everything Mamdani does is, I am one of you, right? I am an immigrant.
Yes, the tone that he doesn't like is the skin tone of Zohran Mamdani.
I am not of Western culture.
How does speaking Spanish signal you aren't part of Western culture? The language comes from as far west as you can get in Europe, and it's spoken almost exclusively in the Western Hemisphere.
That's really weird that all of this blue bit here on the left, that makes sense, right? Because that's all connected. But what about this weird blob of like blue up top there in Europe? What's the connection between these places, chat? Just probably coincidence. Probably just a coincidence, right?
What he means by Western culture here, I suspect, is whiteness. It's the only thing I can imagine him meaning because he's certainly not talking about...
Oh yeah, we had a Cuomo reference and I didn't use this.
Slapping fannies and killing grannies.
Unbelievable.
Geography. The problem with Shapiro's argument here isn't that it's laughably silly, at least that's not the problem I want to spend much time on. The problem is how similar it sounds to arguments made by white nationalists like Nick Fuentes. Although Fuentes hates Shapiro, I doubt there's much he'd disagree with when it comes to Shapiro criticizing the Democrats for attacking white Christian men.
What do they speak in Argentina? Spanish.
It all contributes to the same political project. While these guys are openly hostile towards one another, they are very much pushing in the same direction. Shapiro goes into greater detail about how he believes this rise in bigotry on the right arose.
Yeah, Portuguese in Brazil, Spanish basically everywhere else. And Quechua in various places as well, which is like a native language thing.
And he can only express it in terms where he accuses the left.
So if the left says that white Christian males are the problem, the way that you respond is instead a DEI for precisely the people who are said to be the problem. Right now, the idea is that the systems should only benefit white Christian males.
It's cute that he's trying to rope DEI into all of this, because there's actually a term already for what's being tried here, and it's called white supremacy. And trust me, no one from the right got this idea from the left. And I'm sure Shapiro knows that, but he needs to play these word games to massage this civil war within the right as somehow...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's you know what it is.
You are coping and seething.
How being the left's fault. When you spend your entire career relentlessly attacking the left and excusing the right, he can't even attack the extremists on his side without first pretending like this is somehow the left's fault. When the truth is, if anyone is to blame here, it's people like him who have been turning a blind eye to this growing problem the whole time. Not because he's unaware of it, but because he's ideologically more similar to it than he's willing to admit. There's a great example of Shapiro's own extreme standards in this very video. He has the audacity to claim that Donald Trump is a normal president.
President Trump is as close to a normie president as we have had in the last several decades. Which is bizarre, considering, again, his sort of...
How is he normal, then? If for the last few decades there's been no one like him, surely that makes him abnormal, just by the very nature of what has become normal. Do you mean normal by the standards of the 19th century? Because even then I'm not sure you've got a fair point.
Personality, but that is the reality.
There are masked men in the streets kidnapping people, labeling them criminals without due process, and deporting them, including some being sent to prisons in other countries. He has imposed sweeping tariffs that are wreaking absolute havoc in the economy. He's handed over health and safety to people who are gutting medical research and spreading misinformation and anti-vax nonsense. I could go on for far longer listing all the very non-normal things he's done, even for someone who supports all this stuff. They should at least be able to acknowledge that this is very much not normal. Donald Trump is not a normal president.
Yeah, but they need him to be normalised, because they want more of this shit. Yeah. Abby Normal. Oh my god. Young Frankenstein is a great movie. I'm just going to put it out there, okay? I definitely can't play clips from that movie because it will get copyrighted, but very funny.
Part of Shapiro's problem is that he never allows blame to fall on the Republicans for anything, at least not in a way that is damning enough that someone would decide not to vote for them. One great historic example of Ben Shapiro's blind spot, willful or not, is Candace Owens. Although they had a falling out over her opposition to Israel, eventually leading her to being fired, it almost certainly had more to do with her anti-Zionism than her well-known anti-Semitism. Owens got her job at the Daily Wire well after she had made her comments about Hitler's problem was trying to extend his vision outside of Germany.
If
Yeah, this is whack.
Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to be German, everybody to be speaking German, everybody to look a different way. That's not, to me, that's not nationalism.
Anyone with a grade school understanding of history should be well aware that Hitler's vision was pretty bad for Germans too, particularly if they were Jewish. Owens also defended Kanye West while he was first melting down, and in this case Shapiro joined in, defending him too. And this was well after it had been established that Kanye West had started hanging out with Nick Fuentes. Here's Ben Shapiro on October 7th, 2022.
I care about the fact that there's more black babies being aborted than born in New York City at this point. That 50% of black death in America is abortion.
No, it isn't.
So I really don't care about people's responses. I perform for an audience of one, and that's God.
Wow, I mean, frankly, it sounds fantastic. Frankly, Kanye sounds much more sane than virtually everybody else in public life.
Shapiro in the October video.
See, Zionists don't care about Jewish people, they care about Israel. Simple.
Also made this remark.
The pathologizing of right-wing viewpoints goes back a long way. It goes actually back to a book by Theodore Adorno called The Authoritarian Mind. The suggestion was that...
Oh my god. Frankfurt School, bitches!
There was a pathological drive in capitalist societies that led people to become authoritarian. It was a Marxist view of what America was. And so the idea was that if you were right-wing, you were going to become a fascist.
First, the book is actually called The Authoritarian Personality. I can't say I've read it myself, but it's very funny to me that Ben Shapiro tries to critique its supposed claim of conservatives being more prone to becoming fascists by using the example of Kanye West.
Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table, especially Hitler.
It's very important to...
Oh, what a sentence. Not just also Hitler, especially Hitler. Fucking hell.
Oh dear, I seem to have spotted a cunt!
To state how completely wrong Ben Shapiro was in this instance. In the same video, he's also responding to an interview Tucker Carlson did with Kanye West, which was later revealed to have edited out various racist conspiracy theories that West had mentioned. Almost as if Carlson does these interviews to help bigots seem less extreme than they actually are.
I prefer my kids knew Hanukkah than Kwanzaa. At least it will come with some financial engineering.
All of this would, you would think, cause Shapiro to perhaps reflect on the alliances.
Okay. A little bit anti-Semitic there. But again, Zionists do not care about Jewish people, they care about Israel.
He's made on the right. In the case of Candace Owens, he was willing to look the other way because he was willing to accept a little anti-Semitism if it meant he would have her talents at his disposal at the Daily Wire. In the case of Tucker Carlson, he was a major host on Fox News and a useful ally. So there's a clear advantage to not turning on someone like that. even though he's clearly running cover for someone who holds some very troubling opinions toward Jewish people. This brings us to a major episode in Ben Shapiro's decline, his response to another interview Tucker Carlson had, this time with Nick Fuentes. Tucker Carlson's interview with Nick Fuentes was a gentle one. Fuentes, as usual, went on diatribes about the Jewish community.
They have this international community across borders, extremely organized, that is putting the interests of themselves before the interests of their home country.
Although there was some pushback against Fuentes, Carlson seemed more like he was giving him tips on how to appear more palatable to a wider audience.
But the problem in your response, I get what you're saying, but the problem in your response is it does not apply to every individual.
No, and I would never say that.
Okay, well, I just think it's important to say that.
There's a presumption in everything Carlson says that he and Nick Fuentes generally agree, but Carlson just wishes Fuentes spoke more delicately about the subject. It both ingratiates Carlson to
absolutely fucking hideous creatures.
Fuentes' audience while giving Fuentes mainstream credibility. Oddly enough,
speaking of which, Piers Morgan is interviewing Nick Fuentes. Super glad he's been normalized.
In his response to this interview, Ben Shapiro had a similar takeaway.
Probably you came away thinking that, for the most part, Fuentes lives on the radical edge of normality. You think that if you watch the interview, because Tucker Carlson decided that it was important not only to host Fuentes, but to smooth over his views, water them down, and make them far more palatable to a normal audience. As we'll discuss in a bit, this is what Tucker Carlson does for a living.
But Ben Shapiro gets off track a little later when he says this.
Now, since...
Yeah, that does remind me of Carl. Yeah, Carl trying to advise the paedophile on how to better market CP. Yeah, that's, you know what, you make a good point. A horrible point, but a point that's correct.
His exit from Fox News in 2023, when, of course, he was a very, very popular host, Tucker Carlson has turned himself into a conspiracist and a crank and a pathological liar.
Shapiro would go on to provide some good example of Carlson's show being a mouthpiece for pro-Russia propaganda and conspiracy theories. But what he gets very wrong is that this didn't start when Tucker...
Is this actually his tier list? Is that actually Ben Shapiro's president tier list? Why would George W. Bush only be at C? I don't think this is real. This doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Carlson left Fox News. He's been doing this for years. A video I made several years back looked at his programming on the Fox Nation streaming service back when he was still at Fox News, and he frequently had...
Oh yeah, do you remember that? The Sunlight Gooch thing? Do you remember that when they were sun bleaching their arseholes? Yeah.
Had fringe right-wing figures on, like the Raw Egg Nationalist. That was part of a special about how men's health can be improved by drinking raw eggs and shining red light on your balls. This is, of course, just the tip of a very bizarre iceberg. He would talk about everything from alien abductions to the danger of wind turbines. And the white nationalist connection doesn't just come from the occasional guest. His top writer at the time, Blake Neff, was forced to resign after he was exposed posting racist and sexist comments online for years, and he
what a surprise.
Bragged about smuggling some of that into Tucker Carlson's scripts. And it's very well documented that white nationalists often tuned into Tucker Carlson when he was on Fox News, taking notes on how to more effectively phrase their own beliefs, because he was so good at streamlining them into mainstream conversations. Tucker Carlson has been swimming in these waters for a long time. Oh, just a side note, if you're wondering what happened to that head writer, Blake Neff, after he was forced to resign from Tucker Carlson's show, he got a job at Turning Points USA. Just...
What a surprise!
Thought I should mention that. When Tucker Carlson was fired from Fox News in 2023, Ben Shapiro's pal and former Daily Wire CEO, Jeremy Boring, made a comment about how they'd love to hire him. Ben Shapiro at the time had expressed disagreements with Carlson over foreign policy, but did describe him like this.
Whatever Tucker is, he is certainly a compelling presence, and he does, when it comes to social issues particularly, have an extraordinary amount of moral clarity.
And he criticized the media's commentary on Carlson.
Moral clarity.
The Times did an investigation into how Tucker Carlson stoked white fear to conquer cable. This, of course, is their routine. Is that anybody they don't like is a white supremacist.
This really captures the Ben Shapiro Shapiro finds himself in. His criticisms of Carlson in the present are solid, but he's also pretending that this is somehow new.
Okay, 255, I fucking believe you that he's got a really weird presidential list. Okay, yes.
The truth is, it's not that Carlson has changed, it's just a lot of this is starting to hit Ben Shapiro more directly. And it's that interview with Nick Fuentes that really seems to have brought things...
Actually, I shouldn't have reacted like that. That was harsh. I don't mean to be mean, 255. I just meant like, I understand. I believe you.
...to a head. For those who don't know, Nick Fuentes has hated Ben Shapiro for many years, in part because of Shapiro being Jewish, but also because he sees Shapiro as someone who undermined his career. In his interview with Tucker Carlson, Fuentes described how Shapiro was initially an inspiration for him.
We do this debate about Trump versus Hillary. And so I'm there and I'm pro-Trump and I say, you know, I think Trump's going to win. And I'm straight up like ripping the Ben Shapiro talking points.
This admiration didn't last as, according to Fuentes, Shapiro publicly called him out over some of his takes regarding Israel. If Nick Fuentes said the sky was blue, I'd stick my head out the window to double check, so it's important not to take it on faith that he's being honest in any of this. But what is easily verifiable is that he has been talking shit about Ben Shapiro for many years now, including one very messed up incident where he confronted Shapiro in public while he was out with his family. Although Fuentes and Shapiro insist none of this is personal, it's hard not to notice that Ben Shapiro had for years avoided calling out
It is very much personal. But like, that's just a lie.
Tucker Carlson this aggressively, and now he's saying stuff like this.
Tucker Carlson, for example, would never say out loud what Nick Fuentes does. He wouldn't say the things many of his guests say. And so instead, he acts as an ideological launderer. He takes other people's hideous ideas, he softens them, he treats them with love and care, and then he provides them with a massive signal boost. He isn't merely talking to people in good faith, of course. He's promoting certain people and ideas and attacking others.
And Shapiro goes so far as to point out how even Nick Fuentes can see how Tucker Carlson is a fraud.
After years of bragging about being an elite, bragging about being so out of touch and so rich, now he's going to be the spokesperson for all the white people. Now he's going to roll up his sleeves. I just like to hunt and fish in my log cabin. I care about Klarna and credit card debt.
And now Ben Shapiro is very much on board with the idea that Tucker Carlson is spreading the same idea.
I mean, you've got to just hold your hands up when they occasionally get something right. Fair enough.
Ideology as Nick Fuentes, which is especially ironic considering just a few years ago, he put out a video titled Tucker Carlson is not Nick Fuentes, where he defends Carlson when his rhetoric was compared to Fuentes's.
This is a godless country. I hate it.
You're right. They're godless. That is exactly right. I never talk like that, but it's
Okay, pause
true.
it right there. Okay, so again, this idea that if you say that God has gone absent from the public square, that you're in league with Nick Fuentes. No, Nick Fuentes literally says that he wants a Catholic dictatorship in the United States. That is not the same thing as what Tucker Carlson is saying. This is the stupidest game.
It's incredible that not even 3 years later, Ben Shapiro is going after Tucker Carlson for being aligned with Nick Fuentes when he was criticizing The Daily Show for noticing patterns in their rhetoric. I want to highlight another part of the Carlson interview of Fuentes that might explain the phenomena going on here.
When you get attacked, when people call you names, like they always called me racist, and I would always think to myself, I'm actually not.
I mean, you actually are.
Maybe the point is to make me racist. Where you just get to a point where you're like, well, if you're going to slander me, then I'll just become the thing you're calling me.
Yeah, very sensible grown-up you are, yeah.
I do think that's a feature of human nature, don't you?
Mm-hmm. This is, of course, a deeply silly thing to say. It's basically recreating that webcomic of someone who said they had no choice to become a Nazi because someone made a comment about Trump supporters being racist. Ben Shapiro said as much when Megyn Kelly asked him about it.
I'm a little tired of the excuse that if you are called something enough, that justifies all of the subsequent activity. I've been called every goddamn name in the book. Every name in the book, and I have not, but I have not shifted my positions because people call me names. That is a childish thing to do.
No, you've just shifted your positions based on financial outcome because you're a grifter. Yeah. Cool.
He's absolutely right here, and one thing I noticed that every time I agreed with Ben Shapiro on something, it's when he was saying things people on the left have been saying for years. Which honestly speaks to how effective we are at criticizing the right, whether they acknowledge it or not.
True.
Tucker Carlson plays the same game. Recently, Ben Shapiro made some comments about retirement that went viral.
No one in the United States should be retiring at 65 years old. Frankly, I think retirement itself is a stupid idea unless you have some sort of health problem.
Tucker Carlson
God almighty, he's a monster.
Responded to that, sounding a lot like someone on the left.
Poorer people, working class people, blue collar people are aching. They have trouble walking, their backs hurt. So retirement for a man who climbs ladders is a little bit different from a man who hosts a podcast.
True.
Carlson even brought up the impact of systemic failures.
We are subject to forces that we can't control. It's just a fact. I didn't write the tax code, for example. I don't have any control over the hiring standards at various companies or the admission standards at various...
And here's Anna Kasparian definitely pushing back on all of the right-wing talking points, honest.
...various schools. Those are systemic problems. It's just a fact.
This is another one of Carlson's well-worn strategies, to make a systemic critique, while his solution typically involves demonizing immigrants and other vulnerable groups. It's something he's done time and time again, and honestly, only a sucker would fall for this sort of scam, and he's been pulling it for years. What's even more ridiculous about Tucker Carlson's criticism of Ben Shapiro's rhetoric around retirement is that none of this is new. Shapiro was saying this at least a year and a half ago. It's hard to imagine these guys have only recently noticed these things about one another and were either too cowardly to mention them before or perhaps saw more professional advantage in staying quiet. It really speaks to what opportunists they are. And I want to go back to that video from October where Ben Shapiro was complaining about woke politics infecting the far right.
The Democratic Party has been playing with these forces for so long, it's now too late for them to dissociate from those forces.
One of the big complaints he has about figures like Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes is that they push anti-Semitism. But back in 2011, Ben Shapiro tweeted this: "The Jewish people has always been plagued by bad Jews who undermine it from within. In America, those..."
See what I mean? They don't care about Jewish people, they only care about Israel.
"Bad Jews largely vote Democrat." In his book, Primetime Propaganda, the true Hollywood story of how the left took over your TV, he described how liberal Jewish people had taken over Hollywood to advance a left-wing agenda. He's also run cover for the Great Replacement theory, trying to detach it from its anti-Semitic origins into a more pliable concern over how demographics impact voting. There's something very unsettling about how Ben Shapiro was perfectly happy to point the finger at bad Jews, but somehow thinks it's the left that's convincing parts of the right that there's some kind of Jewish problem. He seemed unaware of the fact that there are actually some pretty powerful anti-Semitic forces on the right that have been there for a very long time.
Oh no, he's well aware of it. He just tries to downplay it. He doesn't want it to become the issue.
And maybe the reason they liked him is because they found him kind of useful. It's a bit of a tired point, but it hasn't stopped being true. Ben Shapiro is being devoured by the monsters he helped protect.
Yeah, no, he's very Frankenstein.
And I suspect it's happening more aggressively than people might expect.
Which channel is this? This is Jose. Go and check them out. They do very good work.
While looking at some of Ben Shapiro's recent videos, I couldn't help notice that the metrics seemed a bit off. For example, his long-form videos do very well, but his clips have dreadful numbers in comparison, something that historically hasn't been true for his channel. If we look on Social Blade, we can see a large drop-off in viewership over the past year. So at first glance, it seems as though his current audience, what remains of it anyway, has a very different viewing habit than his old audience. I wanted to look closer at what might be happening, so I decided to graph out what was publicly available with some comparisons. In this first series of graphs, I'm counting views in 100s to compare them with the total number of comments. The reason I'm counting views like this is because it makes the graph read a little better visually, and since I'm doing it for each graph, the presentation of data is consistent. Looking at Ben Shapiro's long-form videos, there is a big disparity between the number of comments and the number of views, especially when we compare the number of comments to his short-form videos, where they track much more closely. If we compare him to other channels, in this case I chose Candace Owens and Matt Walsh, we can see that Shapiro's long-form videos are getting much less engagement. And if we go back in time to January of 2025, Shapiro's long-form videos are a bit closer. There is still a gap, though not quite as big. If we calculate the odds of whether or not a view will lead to someone leaving a comment, we can see Ben's long-form videos are far less likely to have its viewers leave a comment under them, clocking in at less than 0.3% of viewers leaving comments, slightly more than half of what...
So is he just view-botting those longer videos then?
...what his videos used to get, and far behind Matt Walsh and Candace Owens, who get 3 and 5 times as many respectively. And keep in mind that of all of these channels, Ben Shapiro is the only one who doesn't do a premiere for his longer videos, where the earliest viewers are sounding off in the chat rather than leaving comments under the video. In fact, Ben Shapiro used to do premieres, which might explain why his older long-form videos had so few comments. We can see this pattern repeat itself when it comes to the number of likes left on videos. With all the other types of videos I looked at, the number of likes were significantly worse. Viewers are 3, 4, and even 5 times less likely to click on that like button for Ben Shapiro's long videos than viewers of his long-form videos back in January or videos from Candace Owens and Matt Walsh. What all of these numbers amount to is, in my mind, 2 likely conclusions. Ben Shapiro's long-form videos are being heavily inflated by people who are only showing up to hit the dislike button or nothing at all. And if they're leaving comments, those comments are being deleted. The alternative is that someone is botting his long-form videos, giving it inflated view numbers and
that's what I'm thinking.
And very anemic engagement. Whichever of those 2 conclusions is more accurate, it doesn't look like a healthy channel at all. I should mention that in my calculations, I did omit one video from Ben Shapiro's channel, the November 3rd one, titled Tucker Carlson Sabotages America. That one actually has metrics that reflect something that has nearly 1 million views, and it's also the one that has the most negative comments towards him. It seems like Ben Shapiro's only means of getting big numbers of engaged viewers these days is by being a lightning rod for hate. While we're talking about data though, I also wanted to share some info I came across from Open Measures that attempted to gauge Nick Fuentes' growing profile and how it doesn't quite match the narrative around his ascent.
Yeah, people love
Fuentes
drama.
saw a massive spike in social media chatter about him after Charlie Kirk's murder, that growth has largely gone down. The Tucker Carlson interview didn't move the needle in nearly the same way.
Why did he get talked about with Charlie Kirk? What? I don't know.
Most of the time Fuentes gets hyped up, people cite his Rumble stats, but it's something of an open secret at this point that Rumble's numbers are almost certainly bogus. My own investigation a while back found they were inflating their live stream view counts, and I would be shocked if that was the only metric that was being fudged over there. I say all of this to remind everyone that these figures we're talking about today are incredibly niche. For fun, let's go.
Oh yeah, his sister's channel did get botted. Yeah, so I reckon he's botting, yeah.
Go to Ben Shapiro for that.
Every big audience in the media, you're talking about 3-4 million people. The electorate in the United States is generally about 160 million people. I think one of the mistakes politicians make is they look at X and they say, this is representative of the American body politic. And that is just too online. It's just way too online.
He could be talking about Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, or even himself. But their importance, specifically to conservative politics, I think reflects how terminally online politics has become now. Further getting detached from real people and instead being obsessed with these internet celebrities as if they've somehow permeated the mainstream when really they are big names within a small conservative online media space.
And there's a lot of dark money going into it. It's not like they're actually naturally that popular. All of Ben Shapiro's success comes from the fact that he had dark money and was able to advertise like crazy on Facebook to boomers.
At some point, Donald Trump is going to retire from public life, likely due to failing health. And right now, his cult of personality is the one thing uniting a lot of disparate parts of the right wing. This is something Ben Shapiro is well aware of.
I think that there are a lot of people who are planning for the post-Trump era, and they're trying to make moves right now in order to sort of consolidate their viewpoint in the post-Trump era.
Ben Shapiro represents the old guard of traditional conservatives, the former far right, before they are outflanked by an even more extreme America First movement, often associated with Shapiro's rivals, including Nick Fuentes and, to an extent, Tucker Carlson. It's not a coincidence that Carlson suggests that Fuentes has already won this fight.
And Ben Shapiro...
Yeah, his fucking sister's channel just being advertised every 5 seconds on YouTube. Ridiculous. They spent so much money on that and they got no traction. No one cared. Is she even still doing YouTube? I don't know.
Seems irrelevant to me now.
Now, but back then, for the young,
I guess that's
was huge.
true.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you won.
Oh, certainly.
The truth is probably more complicated, especially since it's hard to get trustworthy numbers for all of this. But for a political party that seems to be terminally online, it's not surprising that popular sentiment on the internet can be used to fuel a movement. It remains to be seen if it can actually translate to electoral success, though. One of the keys to Ben Shapiro's success online is that he's been...
This was an advert then, on Twitter. Do you remember when Twitter used to get adverts from like Coca-Cola and Microsoft? Cool.
able to avoid or build alliances with people who clearly don't like him. Alliances that would never work long term, but I suspect he thought he could get ahead of. As public opinion has shifted rapidly against Israel, it's become increasingly difficult for someone like Shapiro to continue his vocal support for the country. Many on the right have used this opportunity to smuggle their anti-Semitism into the broader criticism against Israel, but Shapiro can't make that move. Back in 2024, Ben Shapiro and his father, a Hollywood composer, produced a musical in Israel that paired the October 7th attack with the Warsaw Uprising.
Oh my God. Oh. Oh.
It's a fucking disgrace.
It was called We Will Rise. Speaking to the Jerusalem Post, he said, "The ending is the most powerful part for me. The characters from the Warsaw Ghetto sing We Will Rise as they move through the fog, but now they're joined by the Israeli soldiers who realize that their fight is the same. The fight to protect the Jewish people is timeless."
The people of the Warsaw Ghetto would have despised you, Ben. The vast majority of those involved in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising were communists. Very, very few were Zionists. Not that they didn't exist. They were a very small faction. Absolutely disgusting.
Putting aside the grotesque pairing of the genuinely heroic uprising in the Warsaw Ghetto with the soldiers committing a genocide, what we see is that this is something Ben Shapiro genuinely believes in. He's a man who has a real passion for at least some of what he talks about, and I think that might ultimately be his downfall. While he was willing to make cheesy YouTube videos for clicks or endorse politicians he has serious misgivings about, there are some lines he won't cross when it comes to some of his values. In this case, it means defending a country committing a genocide, which is tragic in its own right. But in the world of conservative media, not being able to sell out your supposed values makes you vulnerable.
Exactly. Twitter used to get respectable advertisers like jack-off joggers. True.
Going back to the New York Times article, it's hard to imagine Ben Shapiro pivoting to be on the friendly side of the increasingly extreme right-wing base the way he had 8 years ago. Mostly because he didn't really have to give anything up. He just had to pretend he liked Donald Trump. And Ben Shapiro was certainly tolerated and even celebrated because he was useful for attacking the left. But attacking the left while ignoring the far right only works when the far right isn't breathing down your neck in public awareness and pulling ahead in view counts. While I think Ben Shapiro's profile has been dragged down, I doubt he'll be completely finished forever. Careers in media can slump along if someone has a devoted enough base, and Shapiro still has some kind of audience.
Yeah, but at what point does the dark money turn off? Then we'll see Daily Wire crash.
Keeping him afloat. A couple of years from now, it'll be interesting to see if he's found life in a new lane of political relevance, or if the times will pass him by and he'll end up forgotten, like pundits of the past, such as Bill O'Reilly. In the meantime, we can enjoy insightful interviews from Tucker Carlson, where he asks tough questions like this.
What is porn exactly? Like, describe how available is porn? What is it?
One of the real challenges.
One of the great minds of our age, I think. Yeah.
In making this video was getting incredibly sick while I was working on it, so I hope my voice didn't sound too froggy during that one. At one point during me being sick, my voice actually sounded incredibly sexy, and I was very tempted to record something, but I thought I should look after my health, and also having a sexy voice while talking about Ben Shapiro seems like some kind of crime against nature, so I wanted to avoid that as well.
That is fair.
But there's certain things in life you shouldn't avoid, such as watching my videos, and if you would like to support...
Okay, enough. Thank you, everybody. Bit of a short one again, but it is what it is. I'm gonna love you and leave you. Let's see who's going on YouTube. Where we at? Where we at, chat? Oh, No Justice is go. Well, we'll go into No Justice on both of the platforms then. That makes that a lot easier. Oh, that is what? 100 and what? I don't know. Anyway, fucking Twitch trying to tell me stuff. I don't give a fuck. Everyone go and follow No Justice MTG on all the platforms. I'll be back tomorrow with maybe Christy. I don't know. We'll see. Free Palestine. No pass around.